let's turn to domestic matters. Joining me now is the Shadow Business Minister, Dame Harriet Baldwin. A very good morning to you. Thanks so much for talking to us here this morning.
Morning.
I want to start by asking you what your view is of what's going on the markets. The pound has fallen to its lowest level in over a year, and UK borrowing costs hit their highest for 16 years yesterday. The Treasury Minister, Darren Jones, said that the markets continue to function in an ordinary way, essentially saying nothing to see here. What do you make of that?
Well, we wanted the Chancellor to come to Parliament yesterday to talk about how she plans to actually generate this growth that she's always talking about for the UK economy. Because the reality is that her budget last October, she made some choices which I think have harmed growth. So she announced an additional £350 billion of public spending over the next 5 years. And that's financed by £200 billion of additional taxes, mainly on farmers, on businesses, and an additional £150 billion over the next 5 years in terms of borrowing. And what that's done is it's actually caused businesses, which are the wealth generators and growth generators in the UK economy, it's caused businesses to put their hiring plans on hold, to put many of their investment plans on hold. It's caused businesses to think about reducing the number of jobs. And, you know, this is not just me talking, this is the Office for Budget Responsibility in their analysis of the budget, said that it would increase interest rates, that it would reduce the number of jobs, and that it would be something that put the UK much more at risk of changes in interest rates around the world. And so it is extremely concerning that, unfortunately, all those things you would expect as a result of the budget have fed through, and we've seen very anemic growth in the last 2 quarters, and potentially we're now in a recession.
OK, you say you're worried about growth, something that was pretty stagnant while the Tories were in office as well. But what's your take on what's happening on the markets? I spoke to the Culture Secretary a short time ago, Lisa Nandy. She said she didn't think that we needed to be worried. She said that it was a global trend. And it's true, isn't it, that global markets have been pretty skittish themselves as well. There are a lot of concerns about what the implications of a Trump presidency might be for trade and for tariffs. And we've seen German and US borrowing costs also going up.
Yeah, and just to pick you up on the growth point, the first half of last year, the UK economy was actually growing the fastest in the G7. So it was showing some very promising signs in the first half of last year. Unfortunately, what happened after the election was that by talking very negatively about the UK economy and then by implementing this massive budget, which, you know, has huge implications in terms of taxes on businesses, which create the growth in this country, the Chancellor seems to have stalled that economic recovery. Now, you're absolutely right to highlight that there are both global factors and UK-specific factors, because the US economy is growing very strongly, and that we are a price taker in terms of what we borrow at. But the reality is that the choices that the Chancellor took in her budget have made things substantially worse than the global picture for the UK. And so that's why we were keen for her to come yesterday to justify her budget and also to talk about how she's going to generate the growth in the UK economy that we all want to see.
Well, yes, and you mentioned the fact that your colleague Mel Stride had called on the Chancellor to go to the House of Commons yesterday and abandon her trip to China. But isn't that trip all about drumming up investment to help boost the economy? Again, Lisa Nandy said it's the second largest economy, China, and what China does has the biggest impact on people from Stockton to Sunderland, right across the UK. She said it's absolutely essential that we have a relationship with them.
Well, look, the Chancellor was around in the UK yesterday, so she should have come to justify her budget when, as you say, Mel Stride asked about her growth plans in the Commons yesterday, and not to send out a junior Treasury Minister. It would be really good, I think, for her to come and talk about how she's going to use these trips to generate the growth that she herself has harmed through her budget. And so, you know, what we're highlighting is that the decisions that she took last October are the ones that are causing businesses to freeze their investment and their hiring plans, and are causing this knock-on impact in terms of low economic growth, which the markets are reacting to, and they're demanding a higher rate of interest on UK borrowing because she increased the amount of borrowing so much.
She would say that she's laid out her growth plans, and she would say that the decisions made in the budget were because of the legacy left by the Tory party. She, as you know, talks about the £22 billion hole. She says that you left them.
Yeah, well, I think that's becoming increasingly apparent to people that that's not a number that they've been able to stack up, that the Office for Budget Responsibility did not stack up. And, if that is something that she was concerned about, why then announce a further £350 billion of public spending in her budget? So, unfortunately, it is the decisions that the Chancellor herself took in her budget to increase taxation on the growth creators of the UK economy, the businesses that make those investment and hiring decisions, and the markets are seeing that, and that's why they're reacting so badly. And that we're still talking about the knock-on impacts of this budget, many months after it occurred.
What do you make of the fact that the former Prime Minister Liz Truss has sent a cease and desist letter to Sir Keir Starmer over him saying that she crashed the economy? There are some in your party who are suggesting that it would be more helpful if Liz Truss stopped reminding people of her handling of the economy. What do you think?
Well, I think that it's all part of the cut and thrust of political debate. And I think what we're trying to highlight, and what we wanted the Chancellor to come and do yesterday, is to explain how she thinks a budget that increases taxes on the growth creators of the UK economy is going to lead to that growth that we all want to see in the UK economy. And I'm afraid the markets are not convinced, and we're not convinced, and she should have come and explained herself yesterday.
Very quick thought on ticket touts, because the government has announced steps today to tackle ticket touts who fleece customers, as Lisa Nandy put it. The Competition and Markets Authority suggested back in 2023 that the government look at this issue and introduce stronger laws on ticket touts. So why did that not happen?
Well, I think it's an important issue, and I'll study those proposals in detail. I think, at the greater, higher level of the whole UK economy, I think we've got to really hear some substantial arguments from our Chancellor as to how she's going to get the growth that we all want to see for the UK economy. Because the reality is that the measures that the government has taken so far as they affect business, are actually damaging growth in the UK. And so, those are the answers that we're seeking today.
OK, well, Harriet Baldwin, thanks very much indeed for your time today. We do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna.